Hey guys, it's Julia, and today I'm going to be talking about creating your characters. So I have been a little MIA for the last week or so because I had my birthday, my son's birthday and birthday party, then I had my nephew's birthday, and I was in the midst of all this. I was trying to get together all of the boogie boxes to get sent out, so I had a really busy week, so I wasn't able to film. So I'm getting back into it. We're gonna get videos posted every day again. In my last writing video, I talked about knowing your characters and that it's good to know your characters because it helps you write your characters. So I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on that, and the first thing I'm going to talk about is it is important to introduce your characters in the first act of your story. What I mean by this is there are 3 acts in your story. It is really important to introduce those main characters that are going to play an important role in your story in that first part of the story. People like your protagonist, your antagonist, your sidekick, your love interest. Those people are very important to introduce in the first part of your book. Characters introduced later in the story that are important should only be introduced later because they have an important role in moving the story forward. A lot of people have questions on how many characters they should have, but the answer to this is there's no set amount of characters that you should or shouldn't have in your story. It's just you only want characters that are going to contribute to your story. You don't want just some rando character popping up that has nothing to do with the story and that isn't going to do anything for your story or help move your story forward. It's important to have characters that are going to push your story forward, not lag your story or make your story feel slow. In my personal opinion, I think it's really important to have characters with different letters for their first names. I think when you have a bunch of characters with a name that starts with A, it confuses the reader and it's harder to keep who is who straight, and I think that it helps keep your story moving forward. So it's just important to keep the names as different as you can. One of the things that I think is most important about creating characters is to develop backstories for your characters before you start writing your book. So when you're doing the outlining process, it's a really good idea to actually write things that aren't even going to be in your story or relevant to your story in your outline for your characters. One of the things you can do to help do this is to do like an interview with your characters. So you come up with questions that you want to ask your characters, and then you ask those to your characters. And then in your mind, you will answer how you think your character would answer those questions. Things that you can ask are, how did they grow up? Important things that make them who they are, that happened to them in their past. It's going to help you know your characters so it's easier to write about them. This helps kind of give your characters a personality. That way your characters have different personalities and you're not basically writing the same character or the same personality for every character. I think another important developmental step in creating your characters is to make sure you elaborate on races and ethnical differences and how those races came to be. When you're creating new races and different kinds of people, you want to make sure that you elaborate on their background and how those kinds of people came to be in the world. Obviously, they didn't just pop out of nowhere. They have a background, they have an ancestral history, and it's important to kind of elaborate on that in your story. Also, you do want to make sure that you are putting different races in books because you're not going to see one race of people when you walk into a school or the grocery store. There's always different kinds of races of people. So unless it's like a plot point in your story that all the people are the same, or you're in a place where there's like tribes of people and there's only one tribe in your whole story, then make sure you're building on other ethnical backgrounds and you're adding different races to your stories because it helps diversify, and it's just good because in the real world we have that diversity. That is something that is around, and this also is good for sexual orientation and stuff like that too. Like there are all sorts of kinds of people in the real world, so you want to bring that into your stories because it's going to make your story more realistic even in a fantasy world. So that is really it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like and subscribe if you're not already, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Bye!